Hello and welcome to Silent Creativa. Today we will make some dragon eyes. For this project you will need a resin kit, a plastic container, some wooden sticks, a scale, gloves, a breathing mask, acrylic paint in colors you like, polymer clay and sculpting tools, brushes, a palette, a cabochon frame, some varnish, and UV resin and a UV lamp, but you can use your normal resin instead. So first, mix your resin according to package instructions. Make sure to use just a small amount of it, because we won't need that much. After you mixed it well, pour it into your palette and make sure to pop the bubbles. I use the rest of resin to clean the mess you see on the palette. Then wait for 24 hours to let it harden. Make sure that it's quite hard, because when you use your acrylic paint afterwards, I sometimes had the problem that the paint made the surface a bit wrinkly. This problem won't appear when it's totally cured. So then you can add your pupil. Any flaw can easily be cleaned by using a wooden stick. Choose your color for the iris and add it in a little stroking motion. To the end of the iris, get darker. For the second eye, I made the iris a little bit smaller. When you look at pictures of dragons, most of the time the whole eye is in one color, so you have no white of the eye. And I don't really know why I prefer to use it with the white, but it's the way I like it more, and at least you can totally decide which one you prefer. Here I start with the darkest color to first get the shape of the iris and then add the strokes. Keep in mind that you build your eye backwards in this method. So what you will do now will be seen later on the top of the eye. To get a more realistic feeling to it and a bigger variety of color, take a needle and scrape off the color you just added. The more you do this, the more lifelike the eye will look. But be careful not to scrape up the pupil. Then do the next coat of color. Build the eye up until you are pleased with it. For the last step of coloring, I used some gold, just to give it a more shimmery effect. I tried to use UV resin for the last step, adding the background of the eye, and with the pigment it failed miserably. I had to peel off the resin layer by layer, and it doesn't harden enough. If you use UV resin, just use a very thin layer of it. I prefer using normal resin instead. I used another color for the sculpting process because I had this eye finished and was too impatient to wait. So first flatten out a piece of polymer clay, lay your eye on it, and then fold over the edges to create the shape of the eye. When you are pleased with the shape, take a piece of polymer clay, smooth it out, and add it as the top lid. Do the same thing for the bottom. After everything is smoothed together, use a sculpting tool to create a more defined lid. To get the look of scales, I use a tool that I found in the nail art section. So you can use nearly everything for sculpting. Just look around and you will find things that will come in handy. For the cameo, I used the mold I made in my first video. I smoothed out the polymer clay and just pushed it inside the mold. Then I removed it from it to sculpt the dragon eye on top of it. First, I made some indents with a ball tool. You can use any tool you have in hand for this. Make sure that it will fit inside the cabochon frame later. When you are pleased with the indents, make the upper lid and the bottom lid. Push it onto your cameo and smooth it out with your sculpting tool. Again, I made sure that it will fit into the frame. Then I rolled polymer clay into little balls and just pushed them down everywhere. To give it some more texture, I used an old toothbrush. After your pieces are cooled down, you can color them. I used green color and a pearly shimmery medium, mixed them, and then just added the color everywhere. By the eye I use now, be careful don't to add too much color onto the eye. You can remove it later, but it can be a little bit tricky. So be a little bit delicate with this. On the cameo you don't have to be careful, because we will color it later. When the main color has dried, take out some white and draw the white of the eyes. Color the iris by using the darkest color first, and then add layer on layer on layer with the lighter color. You can go back to the darker ones and switch forward and back until you like what you have. This time you can totally see what you do, so it's way easier than the other way. When you are happy with the color of the iris, take some black and make one line in the middle, and from this you can color the pupil in. To give it more of a 3D effect, you can add some resin. You can totally use the two-part resin. I tried again with the UV resin. Again, there were bubbles, and I'm not quite sure if it was my fault because I hold the lamp too close to the eye, or if it's just the resin. I have to work with it more to really tell you how I think about it. The last steps will be coloring the back of everything and adding some glaze to it. Depending on what you will use them for, you don't need to color the back and you don't need to glaze them, but I recommend it. Then I glued the cameo one into a cabochon frame, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice time.